Voice module online.
Welcome to the List Report. I'm Ben Sugarman. Our first story is what historians are later going to refer to as the Great Schism of the ACL. On April 16th, Jay Brooks announced via Facebook that he will no longer be partnered with co-founder of the ACL, Andre Sanu. This announcement came days after a successful spring national tournament at FitCon in Salt Lake City. To many, this was a major shock and left the ACL in a state of confusion as to the future of the organization. Like most of the fighters, it's reported that Andre was also in shock, as this was not discussed with Jay prior to him announcing he will no longer be continuing his partnership. One of the early signs of conflict arising between Jay and Andre may have been the controversial decision that Jay made regarding admission into the international team for the 2019 IMCF Championships held in Ukraine. ACL requirements to join the international team have always been strict and a point of contention with fighters. ACL requirements for an international team have always included mandatory participation in both spring and fall national tournaments. This allowed both Jay and Andre to gauge who is dominating in the list and who is starting to fall behind regardless of the previous years of fighting. With so few registering for this year's IMCF Championships, Jay made a controversial decision and decided to roll back some of the requirements for going overseas to include a broader list of fighters. In a statement on Facebook, Jay announced, "I am opening the gates to American armored fighters to join with our ACL team in Kiev. This includes AMCF fighters in the USA. I see this as our future path." This decision was met with a lot of criticism. Fighters have always shouldered the burden of travel costs, time off from work, and other financial costs that are involved with going to 2 remote locations a year, and then a third if they make it to the international team. For a while, we kind of just gritted our teeth and bared it because it was a great mark of pride to fight for your country overseas. The decision was met with a lot of hostility with current ACL fighters, as now new fighters not exactly in the organization simply have to raise their hand and volunteer for the trip overseas, and they instantly have a slot. Jay's decision to roll back the requirements for enrollment happened shortly after his son, Cat Brooks, had an interesting fight with one of the HMB fighters, Craig Ivey. Traditionally, the ACL policy has always been to ignore outside organizations, focus internally, and let the keyboard trash talk roll off. As it goes, there has always been trash talking. Cat found himself going back and forth with Craig, which eventually led to Craig challenging Cat to a fight. Cat agreed and booked a venue to settle their differences in the list. While Craig won the fight, it may have been a big victory overall for American steel fighting as a whole. It marked one of the only times prominent fighters from both HMB and ACL met to settle their differences and walked away with mutual respect. I talked to Cat about the fight and he stated, "We realize that we don't have any issues with each other and we just want to fight." The ACL will be sending a team to Ukraine to compete in the 2019 IMCF Championships led by Jay Brooks. Andre Sanu has stated that there will be no change in affairs within the ACL following the IMCF Championships. While the name of the new organization is not final, Andre has made it clear that there will be the same ACL policies and procedures moving forward. Fighters are currently in a state of confusion about what their local team will be called and the heraldry attached, but like all great divorces, we just have to wait and see who gets what when the dust settles. In response, Andre released a statement about the future of the ACL. There will be no gaps between the old ACL and the new organization. We should be fully operational by next week and be able to sign new members and transfer ACL memberships over to the new group. Now, as of recording this, we have new information about the league that Jay will be opening in response. Jay Brooks will now be the founder of the Armored Combat Sport. Being that the ACS is hours old at the time of recording, the only reportable difference from the ACL is that there will be no restriction as to where you may fight and what organizations you can associate with. With the company motto, "Be a fan of the fighter," the structure of business within the league looks more focused towards being a service to fighters and not as much a recruitment tool for the sport. In later videos, we can discuss the differences between the ACL and the ACS philosophy of business. Now, in the meantime, I want to make a personal note. And this note is dedicated to all the new fighters who may have come in from seeing our show on the History Channel and just want to learn more and get involved with the sport of armored combat. I'm sorry to say it, but you're coming in at a very bad time, but I don't want that to discourage you at all from getting into this sport. The heads of the organizations are just that. They're heads of organizations that live miles away and have no impact on your day-to-day. The truth is, no matter where you live, there probably is a team fairly close to you, and while the letters of the organization may differ, there's going to be plenty of fights within your local area. Now, let me be perfectly honest. It doesn't look good if you're just watching our Facebook feed. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that I have to report on this, I definitely wouldn't be pouring through our Facebook. I mean, it's just being bickering back and forth, back and forth. The one positive I want to say is that if you haven't had that initial rush of adrenaline and just pure enjoyment from first stepping onto that list, don't let this dissuade you, please. As a service to you, the fighter, I'm going to be here reporting on everything involved in this story and every organization that results of this story. So do a favor, just shut down your Facebook, subscribe to the channel, and I'll be sure to give you all the information that you need and where you can find some fights so you don't have to pour through the bullshit that can be the toxic comment section of a Facebook thread. That's my promise to you, and I hope you stick with this sport if you decide to fight. And if you're just a fan that wants to watch, I can guarantee you now there's going to be a bunch more fights with 3 prominent organizations putting out fights. With that being said, my name is Ben Sugarman. I want to thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the list.